All right, so it has been 1 year since I've had my Shapeoko 5 Pro CNC machine. I absolutely love it, so I wanted to give a 1 year in review, just kind of give 5 takeaways and some pros and cons of things that I've learned over the last year. All right, takeaway number 1 is that this machine is very easy to use, very user-friendly. There's a lot of supporting resources, which I'm going to talk about later. But overall, just my overall takeaway is that this machine is great for both professionals and beginners as well. Takeaway number 2 and 3, these kind of go hand in hand because they have to deal with finances. So takeaway number 2 is that this machine is very easy to pay off. Realistically, I set myself a goal to have this machine paid off in 1 year. I know there's a lot of guys that talk about, hey, I was able to get a job and I paid it off in a month or 2 months. Now that's realistic for sure, but I wanted to set myself up with a 1 year goal. I opened up a new credit card. That way I could put all of the money on there and get points so that I could gain those for miles or whatever. But not only did I put the CNC machine on there, but I put all of the upgrades, things that I bought. I put dust collection on there. I put a new laptop on there because my old MacBook Pro was from college and just was very slow. So very affordable. I did pay this off within 1 year, just with miscellaneous jobs and things like that. And one thing to keep in mind is that you're not only paying off your machine, but your profit margin isn't as high because you have to start acquiring those materials. You have to buy sheet goods, you have to buy, hardwoods and things like that, things that you don't think about. And you're like, okay, maybe I made $100 on this project, but how much of that money was actually purchasing materials? So there was point 3 is to keep those expenses separate from your personal expenses. So 2 and 3, affordable, you can pay it off, and keep your finances separate. So takeaway number 4 is that this year is just a year of trial and error and exploration. So some people may already have a niche that they're trying to start doing, but for me, I was all over the place, making things from fish tank lids to signs to jewelry boxes, things like that. So I kind of have a breakdown. About 50% of the projects that I made were signs or plaques, basically things that go on people's walls, people's names, patio signs, flags, all of that stuff. So about half of the products that I have were signs. And then we kind of go down the list. About 15% of those were jewelry boxes or jewelry trays, because I started to venture into that. And then all of the other breakdowns were just a lot of random other stuff. But those I would say are my two biggest. But when you get this thing, just start exploring. Figure out what you like, what you don't like, what materials you like, what materials you don't like. I started off with a lot of pine, whatever was at Home Depot or Lowe's. I still use it, but not as much anymore because I was using that for a lot of trial and error. And then I started to find materials that I like. I started talking to cabinet makers who had specialty MDFs and specialty plywoods and veneered MDF, things like that. And I started to find materials that I liked, and then I started to use those and kind of take those to my advantage as a material that not a lot of other people had. And then my 5th takeaway is that this machine makes woodworking fun again. So I've been woodworking since high school, making furniture, dining tables, chairs, TV stands, entry tables, things like that. And it's fun. It does, for me, it got burnt out just because as I was growing and going through college and starting my career, not in woodworking, I wouldn't have a lot of garage space. So building a dining table would take up a lot of space. It would be large. It was a lot of overhead for me to purchase the materials. And then I obsessed over every little detail. Whereas getting this machine, I've always loved making custom things and smaller things that I could make in a day or two. And just seeing people's faces light up whenever those items were made, because it was something totally custom, something that they had in their mind that no one else could make. So this machine really has made woodworking super fun again. All right, so going into some pros and cons. I'm gonna start with the pros and then with the cons, which there's actually not a lot of cons. So pro number 1 is that Shapeoko comes with its free CAD and CAM software. So it comes with Carbide Create and Carbide Motion. Those are great softwares. They're very easy to learn. There's a lot of video resources on both Carbide 3D's website as well as YouTube. And that was one of the main reasons I purchased this machine, is because it had the software and there was a lot of resources. So, all right, pro number 2. Now, a lot of hobby CNC machines are like this, but for me, the 110 volt setup using the router, I used a Makita router for almost a full year before I upgraded to the spindle, which is still, I got the 110 volt spindle. And just everything else that you need plugs into your outlet in your garage. So that is a huge bonus. You don't have to get any electrical work done. You just plug it in as soon as it gets here and you're good to go. All right, now pro number 3, this goes along with something I've already said before, but I just wanted to really emphasize this as a pro, is that the amount of resources that are available for this machine. One being YouTube. There's a ton of videos on YouTube teaching you how to use the Carbide Create software. There's a lot of videos showing you how to tram your CNC, how to do everything with Shapeoko. There's a bunch of YouTube, and I really appreciated all that help. But then the last one are the Facebook groups and forums as well. I've learned a lot from that group, and even if a screw falls out of this machine, you could post a picture of the screw and somebody's gonna know where that came from. It happened to me, it's happened to a lot of other people. It's just a great community. So those are all of my pros. All right, going into the cons now. These aren't super cons, they're just things that I've noticed over the year that, take it or leave it. So my first con is that the software, like I talked about before, is specific to Shapeoko. So the Carbide Motion, each CNC kind of has their own CAM or controlling software, but I'm talking about the CAD software, the computer-aided design, where you're actually doing your designs. Because Carbide Create is so good and easy to learn and free, you're gonna get used to that a lot. If you end up upgrading to a more professional CNC machine or go to someone else's CNC machine, they may be using Vectric or Carveco, or you may need to change to that, and eventually you're gonna have to relearn a whole new CAD software. So not really a con, but you're gonna get used to this one and eventually in the future have to get used to another one. Con number 2, again with the software, is that there aren't a lot of settings as far as controlling how your router is cutting. So what I mean by that is there's no raster setting going from like top to bottom, bottom to top, kind of how a laser would cut. To do certain things there. You can't choose conventional versus Klein. Certain materials may cut better a certain way, and depending on the direction that you're cutting and the rotation of the bit, you don't have the opportunity to choose which way it's going on there. And also the rendering inside Carbide Create is just okay. So you're able to see what you're able to cut out, but unless there's good shadows as you're moving it around, it's hard to kind of see all the details. Whereas Vectric and other software, you're able to actually color in the areas in the rendering that you cut out, black or another color, and you're also able to delete all of the external pieces that you're cutting away to really see what the final product will be like. There's also a greater wood selection in other software. So like Carbide Creation doesn't even have walnut or maple, and the wood species they do have in there aren't really realistic, or they're too grainy and it's hard to even see what your rendering looks like. So I also don't think that is great. And then con number 3, I've learned this one over the last year, is that if you are married, your spouse is gonna be angry that you're spending so much time in the garage and so much time on your machine. There is gonna have to be some balance. I also have a full-time job at a corporate place, so when I go in the office, I only have a couple hours each night to come in the garage and actually work on projects. And we've had to work out family time, date time, personal time, garage time. Just know that you're gonna wanna spend a ton of time out here and you're gonna have to balance that. So that's about it. But overall, I give this machine and everything about it 5 stars. I highly recommend it. It's a great machine. I've loved doing things. I'm still learning every day, but I hope you guys enjoyed this and found something beneficial for you. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and I'll try to answer them. But anyway, thank you guys for supporting this. Have a good day.